The sound of the crack echoed through the marble hallway. I froze. A thin red mark was already rising across my cheek when I heard a man's voice behind me. "What the hell did you just do?" I slowly turned around. And the woman holding the writing crop went completely pale. Because the man standing at the entrance wasn't just anyone. It was her fiancé. The billionaire whose house she had been planning to rule. And the look on his face told me that, in that moment, everything was about to change. Welcome back to Karma Stories Hub. Today's story is about family, betrayal, manipulation, and the moment karma finally catches up with people who thought they'd never face consequences. If you enjoy satisfying revenge and emotional justice stories, you're in the right place. Grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's get into today's story. My name is Olivia Carter, and 6 months earlier, I never imagined I would be standing inside one of the most expensive homes in Connecticut with tears running down my face. I had grown up in a small apartment outside Hartford with my mother. After she passed away, I needed a job quickly. That was how I ended up working as a live-in housekeeper for Daniel Whitmore. Daniel was 38, incredibly wealthy, and the founder of a technology company that had made him one of the youngest billionaires in the country. But despite the money, his house wasn't what I expected. There were no loud parties. No celebrities wandering through the halls. No endless parade of strangers. Daniel mostly worked, traveled, and kept to himself. The person I saw far more often was his fiancée, Vanessa Reed. At first, Vanessa seemed charming. She always smiled when Daniel was around. But when he left the room, that smile disappeared. She criticized everything. The flowers weren't arranged correctly. The silverware wasn't polished enough. The coffee wasn't hot enough. And somehow, every little mistake became my fault. I tried to ignore it. I needed the job. More importantly, I had started noticing something strange. Vanessa wasn't just controlling the household. She was interested in Daniel's money. She constantly asked questions about his accounts, properties, business deals, and investments. One afternoon, I walked into the study to dust the shelves and heard her arguing with Daniel. "You promised me the New York apartment after the wedding." "I said we'd discuss it," Daniel replied. "We've discussed it for months." I quietly stepped backward before they noticed me. That evening, Vanessa found me in the kitchen. "You heard us, didn't you?" I swallowed. I wasn't trying to listen. She stepped closer. "You should learn something, Olivia. People like you survive by knowing when to stay invisible." I nodded. "I understand." She smiled. "No. You don't." Then she walked away. I thought that was the worst it would get. I was wrong. 3 days later, Daniel left for a business trip. And that was when Vanessa finally stopped pretending to be kind. The next morning, she called me into the main hallway. In her hand was something I had never seen her carry before. A black leather writing crop. She pointed it toward a vase on the table. "Move that." I immediately did. "Not there." I moved it again. She stared at me. "You really are useless." I apologized. She raised the crop. And before I could understand what she intended to do, she swung it toward me. That was the moment Daniel walked through the front door. For a second, nobody moved. Vanessa was still holding the writing crop in the air. Daniel stared at her. Then he looked at me. His eyes settled on the red mark across my cheek. "Olivia," he said quietly, "what happened?" Vanessa immediately dropped the crop. She was being disrespectful. I looked at her. Then at Daniel. I wanted to speak, but fear had become something physical inside my chest. Vanessa stepped toward him. "She has been making mistakes for weeks. I was simply disciplining her." Daniel's expression changed. "Disciplining? She works for us." "She works for me," he said. The hallway suddenly felt colder. Vanessa laughed nervously. "Daniel, you're misunderstanding. No, he replied. I don't think I am. He picked up the crop from the floor. His face hardened. Why do you even have this? Vanessa's confidence disappeared. I bought it as a joke. A joke? Yes. He looked at me again. Did she hit you? I hesitated. That hesitation told him everything. Daniel walked toward me. Olivia, I'm asking you directly. Did Vanessa hit you? My voice came out barely above a whisper. Yes. Vanessa immediately interrupted. She was rude to me. Daniel turned around. Enough. It was the first time I had ever heard him raise his voice. Vanessa stared at him. You're embarrassing me over a housekeeper? Daniel's jaw tightened. This has nothing to do with her job. She works for you. And that doesn't give you permission to hurt her. Vanessa crossed her arms. You're really going to take her side? Daniel didn't answer. Instead, he asked me something that surprised me. Has this happened before? I looked down. Vanessa stared at me. I knew what would happen if I told the truth. But I also knew I couldn't keep lying. Yes. Daniel's face went completely still. How many times? I couldn't answer. Olivia. 4. Vanessa scoffed. That's ridiculous. Daniel looked at her. 4 times? She exaggerates everything. He turned back to me. Did anyone else see it? No. Did she threaten you? I nodded. Vanessa suddenly stepped forward. I told her to do her job. That's all. Daniel pulled out his phone. I want security footage from the last 6 months. Vanessa's face changed instantly. Daniel, that's unnecessary. Why? Because I know what happened. Then you shouldn't have a problem with the footage. She went silent. Daniel called his security director. Send me every camera recording from the house involving Vanessa and Olivia. Don't delete anything. Vanessa looked furious. You're investigating me? Yes. Her eyes narrowed. You don't trust me? Daniel paused. Not anymore. Those 3 words destroyed whatever remained of her confidence. But I still didn't know the truth. I thought Daniel was simply angry because Vanessa had crossed a line. I didn't realize he had already begun suspecting her of something much bigger. That evening, Daniel asked me to sit in the kitchen. He made coffee for both of us. I almost laughed because the billionaire who owned the house was standing in his own kitchen making coffee for his employee. Why are you doing this? I asked. He looked at me. Because you shouldn't have been treated like that. I stared at the cup in front of me. I'm sorry. You don't have to apologize. I should have told you sooner. He shook his head. You were afraid. I didn't answer. He leaned back. Olivia, I need you to be honest with me about something else. My stomach tightened. What? Have you noticed Vanessa going through my office? I froze. Because suddenly, several strange moments came rushing back. Vanessa entering the study late at night. Vanessa asking me whether the security cameras covered the upstairs hallway. Vanessa once telling me to leave the house for 20 minutes because she needed privacy. I looked at Daniel. Yes. His expression became serious. How often? I don't know. Maybe 3 or 4 times. What was she doing? I never saw anything clearly. He nodded slowly. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. Neither did I. I frowned. What do you mean? Daniel looked toward the hallway. Because I've been missing documents from my study. And suddenly, I understood. The hitting wasn't the real story. It was only the part Vanessa had allowed me to see. The real secret was hidden somewhere inside Daniel's locked study. And whatever Vanessa had been searching for, she clearly wasn't finished. That night, I couldn't sleep. Daniel's question kept repeating in my mind. What had Vanessa been looking for? Around 11:30, I heard footsteps in the hallway. I opened my bedroom door slightly. Vanessa was walking toward Daniel's study. She was carrying a small black handbag. I quietly followed. She stopped outside the study and looked around. Then she pulled a key from her purse. My heart started pounding. The study door opened. I stayed hidden behind the corner. Vanessa switched on the light and walked straight toward Daniel's desk. She didn't hesitate. She knew exactly where everything was. She opened the top drawer. Then another. Finally, she pulled out a folder. I couldn't see what was inside. She took several photographs with her phone. Then she placed the folder back exactly where she'd found it. I immediately stepped backward. But my shoe touched the edge of a small table. It made a soft scraping sound. Vanessa turned. "Who's there?" I ran. I made it to the kitchen before she caught up with me. "What were you doing?" she demanded. "Nothing." "You were watching me." "No." She grabbed my wrist. "Listen carefully, Olivia. If you tell Daniel what you saw tonight, you'll regret it." I pulled my hand away. "I won't say anything." She smiled. "That would be wise." Then she walked away. I waited until she disappeared upstairs before taking out my phone. My hands were shaking. I had started recording the conversation. Not everything. But enough. The next morning, I showed Daniel. He listened without interrupting. When the recording ended, he leaned back in his chair. What was she holding? I don't know. He opened his laptop. Wait here. A few minutes later, he returned with a photograph. This? I stared at it. It was the same folder. What is it? Financial documents. My stomach tightened. Daniel continued. 3 months ago, I discovered that someone had been attempting to move money through one of my private investment accounts. Someone stole from you? Not exactly. He paused. Someone was preparing to. I looked at him. Vanessa? I don't know yet. He opened another file. This account requires two-factor authorization. Whoever accessed the information didn't have enough to transfer anything. So they needed something else. Exactly. I remembered Vanessa asking questions about his passwords. I remembered her visiting the study. I remembered the missing documents. Then something else occurred to me. Daniel. He looked up. What? Vanessa once asked me where you kept your backup security codes. His expression changed. When? About 2 weeks ago. He stood up immediately. Did you tell her? No. He exhaled. Good. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Not fear for himself. Fear that he had trusted the wrong person. But before we could continue, Daniel's phone rang. He answered. Hello? His face slowly went pale. I watched him listen in silence. Then he said 4 words. Check the engagement account. He ended the call. I stood up. What happened? Daniel looked at me. A transfer was initiated this morning. My heart sank. How much? He stared at the screen. $800,000. Then he whispered something that made me realize this was far bigger than I had imagined. The transfer was authorized using Vanessa's credentials. But Vanessa wasn't finished. Because what we discovered next would prove she hadn't been acting alone. Daniel didn't say anything for several seconds. He just stared at the transaction on his laptop. Then he turned the screen toward me. There it was. A transfer request for $800,000. The destination account belonged to a company I'd never heard of. Can they stop it? I asked. They're trying. He immediately called his bank. While he was speaking, I noticed something on his desk. A small envelope. It had my name written on it. Daniel? He looked over. What is that? I don't know. I picked it up. Before I could open it, Daniel ended his call. Leave it. His voice was suddenly serious. I put it down. He stared at the envelope. Then he carefully opened it himself. Inside was a printed photograph. My heart stopped. It was a picture of me leaving a grocery store 2 weeks earlier. Another showed me entering the house. Another showed me sitting on a bench outside a coffee shop. I looked at Daniel. Who's taking those? I don't know. He turned the photographs over. On the back of the final one was a handwritten message. Tell her to stay quiet. My hands began trembling. Daniel immediately called his security team. Within an hour, the entire house was being checked. Security footage. Doors. Vehicles. Guest records. Everything. But then Daniel noticed something. The photographs had been printed inside the house. He looked at me. Someone here is helping her. My stomach dropped. There were only a few people with regular access. The groundskeeper. 2 cleaners who came twice a week. The chef. And Vanessa. Daniel asked everyone to come into the dining room. Vanessa arrived last. She walked in wearing a white silk blouse and smiled as though nothing had happened. What is this about? Daniel placed the photographs on the table. Her smile disappeared. Where did you get those? That doesn't matter. She picked one up. This is ridiculous. You're right, Daniel said. It is. He placed another document beside it. The bank has frozen the transfer. Vanessa's face changed. For 1 second, I saw panic. Then she recovered. I don't know anything about that. Daniel leaned forward. Your credentials were used. Someone must have stolen them. From where? I don't know. He nodded slowly. That's what I thought you'd say. Vanessa looked at me. You've been poisoning him against me. I stepped back. I haven't done anything. You're lying. Daniel stood. Don't speak to her like that. Vanessa laughed bitterly. This is unbelievable. Then she looked directly at him. You're choosing a maid over your future wife? Daniel's voice was calm. I haven't chosen anyone. He picked up his phone. I've chosen the truth. Vanessa suddenly went quiet. Then the front door opened. A man in a dark suit entered. Daniel's attorney. He walked directly toward us carrying a folder. Daniel, we found something. He placed the folder on the table. There's another account. Daniel opened it. His expression changed. What is it? The attorney looked at Vanessa. An account registered to a company called Reed Consulting. Vanessa's face went white. Daniel looked at her. That's your company. She swallowed. Yes. Then explain why my missing funds were being routed through it. Vanessa didn't answer. And for the first time, I realized the woman who had terrified me for months was no longer in control. But the attorney wasn't finished. He pulled out one final document. This account wasn't opened by Vanessa. Daniel frowned. Then who opened it? The attorney looked at me. The paperwork was signed by someone inside this house. I felt my blood run cold. Because the signature on the document looked exactly like mine. I stared at the document. That isn't my signature. My voice sounded strange even to me. The room went silent. Vanessa looked at me. Then, for the first time, she smiled. Not nervously. Not fearfully. She smiled like someone who had just found a way out. Are you sure? She asked. I looked at her. I've never seen that document before. Daniel took it from his attorney. She's telling the truth. The attorney nodded. We thought so. Vanessa's smile disappeared. Daniel looked at him. What does that mean? The signature is a forgery. I exhaled. But it was made to look like Olivia's. My hands began shaking. Someone hadn't just been stealing from Daniel. They had been preparing to blame me. Daniel immediately moved the document away from me. Can you prove who created it? Not yet. Vanessa stood suddenly. This is absurd. I don't have to sit here while everyone accuses me. Daniel looked at her. No one's stopping you from leaving. She froze. But before you do, I'm calling the police. Her face changed. You wouldn't. I already did. Vanessa stared at him. You're destroying our relationship over a housekeeper. Daniel's expression hardened. No. You destroyed it yourself. She looked at me. You think you're safe? Daniel stepped between us. Don't threaten her. Vanessa grabbed her purse. You'll regret this. Then she walked out. The attorney waited until the front door closed. We need to talk about someone else. Daniel frowned. Who? The person who accessed your security system. He placed another report on the table. The login came from inside the property. Daniel looked at me. Who has access? I immediately thought of one person. Marcus. Marcus was Daniel's longtime financial assistant. He had been working for him for almost 8 years. He handled schedules, documents, and private appointments. Daniel shook his head. Marcus has been with me for years. The attorney replied quietly. That's why we checked him. He opened his laptop. There were encrypted messages between Marcus and a number registered to Vanessa's company. Daniel stared at the screen. My stomach tightened. So Vanessa hadn't been working alone. But then the attorney showed us something even worse. The messages weren't only about money. They mentioned me. One message read, make sure Olivia takes the blame if anything goes wrong. I felt sick. Daniel looked at me. I should have protected you sooner. I shook my head. You didn't know. No, he said. But I should have noticed. For the first time since I had entered that house, I didn't feel like a powerless maid. I felt like someone whose truth mattered. But there was still one question. Why had they chosen me? The attorney answered it before I could ask. Because Vanessa needed someone with access to the house who nobody would suspect. Daniel looked at me. And someone who had no reason to fight back. I understood immediately. They thought I was invisible. They thought nobody would believe me. And that mistake was about to cost them everything. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. I looked through the window. Marcus had arrived. But something about him felt different. He wasn't carrying his usual laptop bag. He wasn't smiling. And when he entered the house, he didn't go to Daniel's office. He went straight toward the garage. I quietly followed him. He opened the trunk of his car. Inside was a small cardboard box. He looked around before taking it out. I stepped behind a pillar. Marcus walked toward the side entrance and disappeared inside. A few minutes later, Daniel's security chief called me. Olivia, where are you? Near the garage. Stay there. Don't confront anyone. My heart started racing. Then Daniel appeared. He walked toward Marcus with 2 security officers behind him. Marcus stopped. Daniel. What's in the box? Marcus looked down. Personal files. Open it. Marcus hesitated. Then he slowly opened the box. Inside were copies of financial documents, several USB drives, and a second set of photographs. Daniel picked up one of the drives. What's on this? Marcus didn't answer. Daniel looked at the security chief. Take it. Marcus suddenly stepped backward. I can explain. You're going to. Marcus lowered his head. I never meant for anyone to get hurt. Daniel's expression hardened. You helped someone steal from me. I didn't steal anything. You accessed my accounts. Marcus looked at me. His eyes filled with guilt. I was told she'd be protected. I felt a chill. Who? He looked away. Vanessa. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. Then Marcus finally started talking. Vanessa had approached him months earlier. She told him Daniel was going to end their engagement. She claimed she needed money to protect herself. At first, Marcus only gave her information. Then she asked him to create the company account. Then came the transfers. But when Marcus realized they were preparing to make me the scapegoat, he wanted out. Vanessa threatened to expose him. What about the photographs? I asked. Marcus looked at me. She wanted proof that you were around the house. Why? To make the story believable. My stomach twisted. They had planned everything. The forged signature. The financial transfers. The photographs. Even my access to Daniel's house. I suddenly remembered something. The envelope. Daniel looked at me. What about it? The envelope with my name. Marcus shook his head. Vanessa didn't send that. Everyone became silent. Then who did? Marcus looked at the security chief. I don't know. That answer frightened me more than anything else. Because if Vanessa and Marcus weren't responsible for the envelope, someone else had been watching me. Daniel immediately ordered another security sweep. An hour later, his attorney returned with an update. The police had found a connection between Vanessa and the person who had mailed the photographs. But there was a problem. The person wasn't working for Vanessa. He had been hired by someone else. Someone who had a completely different reason for wanting Daniel's money. Daniel read the report twice. Then he looked at me. Olivia, I need you to prepare yourself. For what? He slowly placed the report on the table. The person behind this isn't Vanessa. I stared at him. Then who is it? Daniel's face was pale. My own brother. I stared at Daniel. Your brother? He nodded. Ethan. I had heard the name before. Daniel's younger brother had been mentioned occasionally, usually in conversations that ended quickly. But Ethan lived in California. At least, that was what I had believed. Daniel opened the report. Ethan has been asking about my estate for months. I frowned. Why would he care about your estate? Because after our father died, he believed he deserved half of everything. Daniel paused. He received a settlement. A very large one. But he spent most of it. And now he wants yours? He wants what happens to mine if something happens to me. The words made my stomach tighten. I looked at the report again. So Vanessa and Marcus were helping him? Not exactly. Daniel explained that Ethan had approached Vanessa separately. He knew their engagement was unstable. He knew Vanessa wanted financial security. And he knew Marcus had access to Daniel's private information. He had offered Vanessa something simple. Money. A lot of it. In exchange for helping him create a financial crisis that would make Daniel vulnerable. But the plan had become much more complicated. Vanessa wanted Daniel's money for herself. Ethan wanted control of the company. Marcus wanted to protect his job. And I had become the perfect person to blame. I suddenly understood why Vanessa had spent months making me feel small. She wasn't only trying to control me. She was creating a reputation. If something went wrong, everyone would already believe I was careless. Daniel looked at me. There's something else. What? The police believe Ethan may be coming here. My heart sank. When? We don't know. That afternoon, Daniel moved me to a hotel. I didn't want to leave the house, but he insisted. You're safer away from the property. I packed a small suitcase. Before leaving, I walked past the hallway where Vanessa had struck me. The red mark had disappeared days ago. But I still remembered the sound. I stopped. Then I realized something. Daniel. He turned. The camera. What camera? The hallway camera. He stared at me. You said security footage was being reviewed. Yes. But the camera in that hallway wasn't working that day. Daniel's expression changed. Are you sure? I remember because I cleaned it myself. The light was blinking. He immediately called security. 10 minutes later, they confirmed it. The camera had been disconnected approximately 30 minutes before Vanessa attacked me. And it had been reconnected shortly afterward. Someone had deliberately removed the evidence. Daniel looked at Marcus. Marcus went pale. I didn't do that. Daniel believed him. Then his phone rang. He answered. I watched his face change. Where? He listened. Then he looked directly at me. The hotel isn't safe. My heart stopped. What happened? Someone just checked into the room next to yours. Who? Daniel didn't answer immediately. Then he said. Ethan. Before we could move, another call came through. This time it was from the police. They had found something inside Daniel's house. A hidden recording device. And it had been placed inside my bedroom. I felt sick. Someone hadn't just been watching me. They had been listening to me. 4 months. Daniel grabbed his keys. We're leaving now. As we rushed toward the elevator, I noticed a man standing at the far end of the hotel lobby. He was wearing a dark baseball cap. He looked directly at me. Then he smiled. And I knew instantly. He had been waiting for us. Daniel grabbed my arm. Don't look back. But I had already seen the man in the lobby. He wasn't Ethan. At least, not the man from the photographs Daniel had shown me. We rushed through a private exit and got into Daniel's SUV. His security chief was already calling the police. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Then Daniel finally said, I'm sorry. I looked at him. For what? For bringing you into this. You didn't bring me into it. He looked at me. They targeted you because of me. I shook my head. They targeted me because they thought I was weak. Daniel's expression softened. And you aren't. No, I said quietly. I'm not. That was the first time I truly believed it. We went to a secure office instead of the hotel. Daniel's attorney was waiting there with the police. They had recovered the recording device from my bedroom. But the recording contained something none of us expected. Vanessa had been inside my room 2 nights before Daniel returned from his business trip. Her voice was unmistakable. She's getting suspicious. Another voice answered. Ethan. I told you she'd notice eventually. Vanessa sounded nervous. What if she tells Daniel? She won't. How do you know? Because she'll be too scared. I felt my hands tighten. Then Ethan said something that made the entire room go silent. Once Daniel signs the revised estate documents, everything changes. Daniel looked at his attorney. Revised estate documents? The attorney immediately checked his files. There was a document Daniel had never signed. It transferred control of several major assets to a trust. And the beneficiary wasn't Ethan. It was Vanessa. I looked at Daniel. They were trying to make you sign it. He nodded slowly. And they needed me to believe Vanessa was the person protecting me. Suddenly, everything made sense. The financial transfers weren't the final goal. They were creating chaos. They wanted Daniel frightened, distracted, and dependent on Vanessa. Then they would present the documents. But there was still one missing piece. Why had they gone after me so aggressively? The police answered that question. They found another recording. This one was made in the study. Vanessa was talking to Ethan. "We can't leave Olivia here." Ethan replied, "Why?" "Because Daniel trusts her." My chest tightened. Then Vanessa said the words I'll never forget. "If she stays, he'll eventually discover everything." For months, I had thought Vanessa hated me because I was a maid. The truth was much worse. She was afraid of me. Not because I had money. Not because I had power. But because Daniel listened when I spoke. And she knew that if I ever stopped being afraid of her, her entire plan could collapse. The police prepared arrest warrants. But before they could move, Daniel received one final message. A photograph appeared on his phone. It showed Vanessa standing outside the building where we were hiding. Underneath it were 6 words. "You should have left her behind." Daniel looked at me. I knew then that the confrontation we'd been waiting for was finally coming. And this time I wasn't going to hide. The police arrived at the building within minutes. Daniel wanted me to stay inside the secure room. I refused. "I've spent months being afraid of her," I said. "I'm not hiding anymore." He looked at me for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Stay beside me." We walked into the lobby together. Vanessa was standing near the entrance. She looked calm. Almost too calm. When she saw me beside Daniel, her expression hardened. "You really chose her." Daniel didn't answer. The police officer stepped forward. "Vanessa Reed, you're under arrest." Her face went blank. "For what?" "Financial fraud, conspiracy, and attempted theft." She looked at Daniel. "You're actually doing this? You did this to yourself." She laughed bitterly. "You think Ethan will save you?" Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Ethan is already being arrested." That was when her confidence finally disappeared. She looked toward the doors. 2 officers were bringing Ethan inside. He had been caught trying to leave the state. Marcus had already agreed to cooperate with investigators. The entire plan had collapsed. Vanessa turned toward me. "You ruined everything." I shook my head. "No, Vanessa." I looked directly into her eyes. "You did." She stared at me. Then she whispered, "You were supposed to be nobody." Those words hurt more than I expected. Not because they were true. Because they revealed exactly how she had seen me. Invisible. Replaceable. Powerless. But I wasn't any of those things. I was Olivia. I had survived losing my mother. I had survived being humiliated. And I had survived the moment someone tried to make me believe I deserved it. Months later, the investigation was over. Vanessa accepted a plea agreement and was ordered to repay the money she had attempted to steal. Ethan faced separate charges related to the financial scheme. Marcus cooperated with investigators and avoided prison after providing evidence that helped establish the full plan. Daniel ended the engagement permanently. As for me, I didn't remain a housekeeper. Daniel offered me a position managing guest services for one of his charitable foundations. I accepted. Not because I needed him to rescue me. But because I had discovered something about myself during those terrifying weeks. I was capable of standing up for myself. One afternoon, Daniel and I sat outside the foundation's new community center. He looked at me and smiled. "You know, when I first hired you, I thought you were quiet." I laughed. I was scared. "And now?" I looked at the building in front of us. Now I know being quiet and being powerless are 2 completely different things. That experience taught me something I'll never forget. People can make you feel small for so long that you eventually start believing them. But someone else's cruelty doesn't define your worth. Sometimes karma isn't about watching someone lose everything. Sometimes karma is simply walking away with your dignity intact while the people who tried to break you finally face the consequences of their own choices. So tell me, what would you have done if you were in my situation? Would you have confronted Vanessa sooner, or would you have stayed quiet until you had enough evidence? If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another karma story.